Our story begins with two girl sisters taken captive, but not ordinary ladies, but real magicians. All the time they are taken somewhere they are confused, they have no idea where they are going. One of the sisters was so tired that she didn't even notice that her clothes were falling off. This sad moment was diluted by a dragon with his yell, which made the girls think that he was jealous of them. Meanwhile, in a Parallelian modern world, there was a fight between two fighters, the protagonist named Ryoma and his sensei, an old man who promised to give everything he had if the young man could defeat him, and the guy had no doubts about it. The fight starts, and the fighters start exchanging sword blows. Then the old man realized that the guy was serious about piercing his throat, because his master taught him not to spare anyone in a fight, not even his parents. But the old man's technique is designed to kill in one blow, so he is looking for the right moment. But the sparring was stopped by Asuka, his granddaughter, who invited them for breakfast. She noticed that they lost track of time, so she asked what they were doing, to which Ryoma replied that they were killing each other, to which Asuka said enough of these jokes. The old man decided to joke that she was acting like a married couple, since he sees her cooking breakfast for them, but Asuka replied that this was not the case, since their relationship with Ryoma was not that close, causing the old man to have doubts that Ryoma had a love rival, and then gave him his wise advice that it was an indication that they were getting along very well, and to avoid disturbing their hangout, she decides to go to school on her own. When Ryoma arrives at the school, he is once again begged to join their karate group because he is perfect for it. He is 2 meters tall and has a pumped-up body, but he is not interested in it at all. Instead, he thinks about the words of his master. To eat in peace, he even has to climb on top of the school so that no one can disturb him. He realizes that if he goes to this club, he can accidentally kill someone, and he doesn't need to go to jail at all. But suddenly, a bright glow formed around him, a so-called portal, and he teleported to an unknown location. Ryoma was a little confused when he found himself between the soldiers, who were happy that today's draft was very lucky to get a guy with good physical fitness, so for safety's sake, the order was to put a curse on him as soon as possible. Ryoma immediately realized that something was wrong, and that this place was not like a school, so he had to get out of here. At this point, he gets a quote from his master in his head, so he decides to take advantage of the surprise effect by offering the soldiers a taste of his food. This trick distracted the soldiers, which allowed him to launch a surprise attack with a barrage of blows and take away his sword, which allowed him to kill the soldiers one by one. The summoner, seeing that he can't deal with him that way, decides to use magic to hit him, but the guy defended himself from an attack by one of his subordinates and gives him a fatal blow to one of his lungs, preventing him from using magic. Ryoma asks where he is and how he got here, to which the old man silently replies that he called him, not understanding how he knows that a blow to his lung will take away his magic. The guy courageously asks the next question. If he can return home, then the old man shits his pants as he sees the guy's intentions to kill him if he wants to. Then the old man realizes that if he can subdue the guy, he will have no problem winning the war. He is stumped as he has a dilemma whether to tell what he is capable of, in which case he will ask him to return to his world, but if he tells the truth, that is his evil intentions, he will definitely kill him. He chooses to hold off until the guards come to his aid, but the guy knows he's up to something because he feels his heartbeat quicken. The guy asks the same question again, but the old man doesn't answer anything, as he knows that there is no way to go back to his world. Meanwhile, his lung has started to regenerate and is waiting for the moment to strike him. The guy has already realized that they have no intention to return the summoned alive. Then he asks the final question. Then why did they summon him? It turns out that he, like all aliens, has a high power of absorption, and tells the truth that in this world when you kill someone, you can absorb their power. Then the old man had a chance to attack him, but unfortunately for him, the guy reacted quickly and knocked him out. Meanwhile, outside the door, his granddaughter is already worried that the ritual is going on more than usual, suggesting to check if everything is all right, but she is forbidden to do so, as the process of summoning people is the most secret technique. The military chief asks her to calm down, letting her know that he understands her worries, but even wizards of such a level as her grandfather make mistakes. But the girl has run out of patience and uses the fire technique on the steel door, then freezes it, and with the help of a sudden change of temperature, she manages to break even this door into splinters. Everyone around them was dumbfounded by her strategy, and she gave the order to move inside and investigate everything. But once inside, they were shocked to see the servant in a pool of blood, and next to him, her grandfather, who was beaten savagely and showed no signs of life. Suddenly, a scream was heard from the surviving servant, who said fearfully that there was a monster here. In order to save him, he was taken on a stretcher to the infirmary, at which point we realized that Ryoma was hiding under the mask of a wounded man. After that, the examination of the case began, and Seria-sama couldn't even guess what kind of monster could have killed her grandfather, the leader of the royal mages. Moreover, the autopsy showed that this so-called monster had killed everyone with his bare hands. Rolf thought it was impossible, as it was not unrealistic to pierce the armor of soldiers with simple hands, but the examination shows the opposite. They found finger-shaped marks on the heads of the soldiers. Rolf remembers that the only survivor mentioned that it was some kind of monster, but as he knows only that the conscripted man must be very weak, so he only has to question that survivor. But suddenly, he gets the news that the infirmary where the survivor was taken has gone up in flames. Meanwhile, Orlando is enjoying the flowers, but he hears screams that a fire has started, and people start looking for a magician to put it out. They were lucky that he was just who they were looking for. He uses magic to create a giant water dragon and put out the fire. Seria-sama comes to him to explain what he has done here, but Orlando says that he has just arrived and just put out the fire. Ronbelt, the local doctor, intervenes in their conversation and tells them the sad news that the soldier, that is the murderer, has killed several more victims, including his son. He says at the moment when they brought the wounded soldier to him, he was drunk, so because of his condition, he asked his son to deal with him himself and went off to drink more. In spite of this, his son is not a bad doctor either. To examine the wounded soldier, they started to take off his armor. This was their mistake, for because of this, he started to cut them one by one with his sword. Aaron saw this and started to run away and ask for help, but it was too late as Ryoma caught him and asked him how to get out of here. But the boy wouldn't answer, so Ryoma started to strangle him by repeating the question. Then the boy, for fear of dying, told him where the gate was, but even so, Ryoma didn't pity him, because he saw his face and asked for his forgiveness, and to get rid of the evidence and to escape, he started a fire. They have very little time, so Seria-sama asks Orlando to start conjuring and open a portal. She wants to teleport Rolf to prepare the soldiers, and she wants to meet the king to tell him what happened. Using the portal, she appears in front of the entrance to the king's hall, and the guards threaten her that using the portal is forbidden, especially in this place, and that it will cost her her life. But when they lowered the hood, they recognized her. She tells them that she has come with an urgent emergency, and if they do not let her in, she will destroy the door herself. She manages to get in to see the king, but his counselor is not happy that she so brazenly showed up in front of the king, asking the king of the royal mages to come instead if the matter is so important. But the king asks him to shut up and gives her his word. The first thing she does is to ask to be given the command of the royal guard. The counselor is very surprised to hear her request, but the king agrees to give it to her if she can convince him. Then she tells him that her grandfather is gone, so she wants to find out who killed him, saying this while choking on her tears. Meanwhile, Ryoma overhears their conversation and learns his name, and remembers how he looked at him with contemptuous eyes, while wearing a soldier's uniform to avoid suspicious looks. After that, he started thinking about the old man's words when he called him. He said that in this world when you kill someone, you take their strength, which meant that he had already taken the strength of 4 soldiers by killing them. But to get the strength of even one, he would have to kill 1,000 people. This rule applies to dragons as well. He was a bit hungry, so he decided to eat. Then he was glad that he left his armor outside the city, so he can now eat in the center of the city without suspicion. Then he started to wonder what he should do next, but suddenly an employee came up to him and was surprised that she had never seen him here before. But that didn't stop her from buying him a beer, not knowing that he was only 16, as he looked much older than his age. The guy thanked her for this dignified gesture, and the woman remarked that only a good man could say thank you. The guy started telling her that he had only recently moved to the capital because of the death of his parents, so he was looking for work, asking if she could help him with that. saying that he was not bad with a sword. The woman began to list all the possible options, like a salesman and so on. But none of them suited Ryoma. Then she had a brilliant idea, a job as a mercenary. But the guy had not heard anything about it. So she told him that it was the perfect job for him, as it only needed to register in a bank without an ID card, which is just nearby. The boy took her advice and went to the bank, where he was asked for his bank card, and was again surprised that he was only 16. But Ryoma was already used to it. He was quickly told what this job is, with this and the fact that all mercenaries' strength is measured in ranks, and it can both increase and decrease. In addition, it was explained to him that when you kill any creature, that part of the power goes to you. That is, if you killed 10 people, you are 10 times stronger. But Ryoma has already faced this. Then he was told about the quests. In the combat quest, he will get 3 coins for each creature. But the guy wonders if the missions include traveling outside the kingdom, as it would help him to leave the empire without a trap. But for his rank are available only such missions like delivery to another city. The guy chooses a mission with the shortest crowd to the border to escape as quickly as possible and not to be caught. But when he told her that he was going on a mission and that his main weapon was his fists, the woman yelled at him, for adventurers like him usually died from weak monsters because they were not serious and careless. The guy listened to her and went to buy a weapon, but unfortunately katana had not been invented here yet, so he asked if they had a more comfortable weapon. When the salesman heard that, he got angry at him, but when Ryoma told him that he had been sent by the woman from the canteen, he immediately became a different person, offering him an unusual dagger. Ryoma immediately noticed that it was made with a special recipe, which surprised the salesman, seeing as how he knew a lot about weapons. But Ryoma was more interested in katanas, so he explained to the seller what kind of weapon he wanted, but the seller realized that he was talking about weapons from another world, but he didn't even know how they were made. The seller realized that normal weapons will not be suitable for him, because he offered to try weapons from other worlds. But the most interesting thing here is that Ryoma first saw these weapons in front of his eyes, perfectly can use them, which greatly surprised the seller. But even so, the guy does not see them practicality during the battle. Among them, the guy noticed some nunchaku, with which he at least had experience when training with the old man, so he chooses to take them and to add a sword. Immediately after that, he went back to that kind woman and told her that he had everything worked out. But during the conversation, it turned out that the guy forgot to get the quest letter. A drunk man joined their conversation and said that it's nothing and don't worry about it. Instead, he offered to drink a toast to him. He was even lucky enough to find a place to sleep that night, and now he could at least relax a little. Meanwhile, his thoughts were occupied with the fact that it was a good thing he had changed his clothes, for that way the pursuing group had passed by without noticing him. Among them, he noticed experienced fighters, but most of all he was concerned about the woman who clearly originated them in power, which even gave him goosebumps. Meanwhile, a member of the search team wonders how they can find the killer without even knowing his face, but the so-called first princess of the empire says to leave it to her, for she will be able to identify him. Suddenly, Seriya-sama has a problem with the military, why they stopped the search, but as it turns out, it was the princess who gave the order to stop, because it will be dangerous at night, so they will continue the search tomorrow. Hearing this, Seriya-sama was indignant, because the assassin may be able to escape in the meantime. For this reason, the princess asked Orlando to calm her down. In the meantime, she and Ralph began to make a further plan. She suggested that tomorrow he should go to the south, for the border is closest in that direction. Meanwhile, she would go to the east, for she had a hunch that the assassin would go in that direction. Ralph offered to mobilize, but the princess refused the idea, for then they would be vulnerable to their enemies, and they were already lucky that the inhabitants did not raise a storm after the death of the summoner. In the meantime, Ryoma is already on a full mission, killing all sorts of creatures, and during this time, he has already distanced himself 10 kilometers from the capital. It's time to receive payment, so Ryoma asked to sharpen his sword, that for the whole day he dulled. Then the girl worker was surprised to learn that he was able to sharpen such creatures with just a sword. As a result, he gets 5 copper coins, which is equal to about $30, which he is certainly happy. In addition, his rank has risen, thanks to which his income will be doubled in the future. Hearing what riches await him, he was already dizzy. But it is good that then he remembered the words of the woman that you cannot weaken attention because of this hunters and die from weak monsters. For this reason, he thought about buying a healing potion, but unfortunately it is not a small amount, but 1,000,000 yen. But he also realizes that injury in this world means certain death. Meanwhile, another hunter is unhappy that he didn't get his reward by risking his life, but it is explained to him that even if he had neutralized the robber, it wasn't the one who was specified in the quest, and as a result, many girls were kidnapped to be sold as slaves. After hearing this, the hunter realizes his guilt and even offers to pay the fine. As it turns out, this happens a lot, so Ryoma is told not to forget that the quests he performs affect the lives of many people. After that, Ryoma went to continue doing the quest, not thinking it would be so torturous. He realizes that if he goes east, he will come across a town of bandits. But so far, he doesn't see anyone. But suddenly, he feels someone. It turns out that the bandits attacked some people and robbed them, saying that their business has been doing very well lately. Among the jewelry in the cart, they found 2 slave girls, so they had an idea to have fun with them. But their boss won't even know about it, because after that, they plan to get rid of them. It turns out that when they attacked their cart, the boss of the slave girls and his guards just ran away, leaving them behind. However, the girls threatened them that if they touched them, they would kill themselves by biting their tongues. However, the bandits know that they will not do this, for when they are wearing collars, they cannot kill themselves as well as defend themselves. The bandits are already starting their fun by picking out a girl each, telling the young ones to keep their hands to themselves and stand guard. Meanwhile, Ryoma sits at the ready and watches as these bandits pull out their swords after taking off their pants and start reaching for the girls. Then Ryoma decides to save them and attacks these bastards without letting them hurt the pathetic girls. The bandits didn't like it, asking how he dared to attack them, but Ryoma didn't answer anything back and started beating them furiously one by one, without showing any pity for them. When it was over, the girls just froze like statues from surprise, and then immediately began to help him heal his wounds, but Ryoma said that he was fine, asking if he was okay. The sisters then decided to introduce themselves, letting him know that they were twins and that he was fine, thanking him sincerely for it. However, the guy is not going to accept their thanks, as he waited for the bandits to release their weapons from their hands. And while waiting, the bandits could do anything with them. However, the girls do not agree with him, for it could have been much worse if he had not shown up, not knowing how to fully ennoble him. At some point, the guy realized why the thugs couldn't resist them seeing their taut bodies and cute faces, which made him blush and get nervous in front of the girls. Then he realizes that they look like Arab dancers in those clothes. He decides to ask them what their last name is, but it turned out that they have no last names because they are slaves. Then he realized that he made a mistake and that he should not have asked them that. Then he also revealed his name. He tells them that he is going to town so he can take them there. But the girl replies that they can leave without their master's permission. And when Ryoma hears this, he becomes furious, asking them where their master is now, to which they reply with a nonchalant face that he ran away when the bandits appeared. The guy doesn't understand them at all, and as he didn't try to explain to them that they shouldn't sit here and wait for the master who treats them like things they don't understand. He has given up on convincing them, so he decides to get the corpses as far away from them as possible, and then leaves, wondering if he did the right thing. But suddenly, he hears one surviving bandit steal one of the sisters and starts running away. If you want to see the next part, don't forget to like and subscribe.